I'm sure I don't have to tell you the advantages of open source software like Drupal. There's no cost for the software, there's peer review of the code, and it's a do-ocracy that means that all users are empowered to scratch their own itches. One of the downsides of having no absolute authority is that there's also no absolute source of help. Some companies have popped up to provide assistance, but for the most part you're dependent on the mercy of strangers. Let's look at how to get the help you need, and how, in turn, to give it back. There are two parts to this. The first is knowing where to go, and the second is knowing how to act to get the answer you need. I want to cover the second one first because it's actually more important. Fortunately, this advice already exists on the web, and there's an excellent post about it by Chris Heilman. I just want to quickly summarize what Chris wrote and add a few tips of my own. I'll break this into 3 phases. First, what to do before you get help. Second, how to ask your question. And third, what to do after you start getting some responses. The first thing you should do is make sure you really have a problem. Really work at it before you start asking other people. You might find that you solve your own problem and learn something along the way. Second, do your research. Do a search on Drupal.org or just on Google in general. Again, you might find an answer to your problem more easily than asking someone else. Third, make sure that you have all the specifics together. It's a lot easier to answer a question that has error messages and screenshots than one that's just, "Something's broken, please help me." When it comes time to ask, make sure you follow the rules and the norms of whatever forum you're asking in. For a support request, for example, don't file it in a place for bug reports. It just angers people and you're less likely to get a response. Again, have all your information together and then present it in a way that they can read quickly and understand what you mean. Third, and I'm afraid this is a big one, ignore any bad attitudes you get. Unfortunately, the people who are most able to answer your questions are those who have been using the software for years, and many times they've forgotten what it was like to be a beginner. Just let any sort of bad attitude roll off your back and try to get the information while ignoring any sort of troubles of that sort. Finally, if somebody gives you off-topic advice, just let it go. Accept it, see if you can get some use out of it, and then go back to the subject. These people are doing this for free and in their spare time. You can't expect them to be totally focused like you would for an employee, for example. Finally, after you've asked, make sure you give people enough chance to respond. I know your problem may seem urgent, but it does take time for people to understand what you need and to get back to you. So give it at least a couple days. After they start to respond, continue the conversation. Very often I'll have a problem and I'll post what I think is complete information, and they'll come back and say, "Well, have you checked this file?" and so forth. And after I do, I find the problem, so make sure that you stay engaged. After you've figured out what's wrong, report back. The solution you find may help other people in the future. Finally, when you're ready to and you see a problem that you can solve, start answering other people's questions. Give back to the community. That's how it continues healthfully. But enough about etiquette. Let's talk about where to get help. Our first source, as always, is Drupal.org. I assume you're already logged in. If you're not, what now reads Your Dashboard will have a login or register link, and you can start your own account that way, or log in if you're not logged in. The first place to go is documentation if you have a basic question. Here there are several handbooks which will help you with installation and administration, and even building your site and building your own themes. These are fairly well organized, so they can be quick ways to find your answer. Very often, however, you need a solution to a specific problem. In those cases, the search box is often your best friend. Let's say that I am trying to delete a user, for example, and I can't do that. I'll try can't delete user. That brought back a fairly short list of what looked like relevant links. If you ask a more general question, such as, let's say, help with views, you'll find that it returns a much larger number. However, you can cut down on that number by looking over here in this right column. This is what's called a faceted search. If you wanted ongoing help with views, you might think, oh, I'll join a group that's specifically about that. And as we scroll down, we see, well, I might be able to find something that helps me here. If you want to see all the issues again, just click All. There are 2 other places where you can ask questions. The first is in the forums on Drupal.org. You get there by going to Community and Support, and then scrolling down and clicking Our Forums, or just by entering the word forum at the end of Drupal.org, so Drupal.org/forum. Another place you can ask online if you're having problems with a specific module or theme is in the issues queue for that module or theme. To go there, I'll go to Download and Extend, And then down to our modules. Just for argument's sake, let's say that I'm having a problem with the Views module. I click there, and then look down at the issues. Here I can do a more focused search. So let's say I'm having a problem with a calendar view. I could just enter calendar, and then click search. And here I get quite a few issues where people have already had their questions answered. Many of these are bug reports, but if you're looking for support, you can also filter based on support requests. Or if you don't find an answer that you want there, you can create a new issue, but as I mentioned before, you have to already be logged in. The next thing I want to show you is how to get immediate help through Internet Relay Chat, or IRC. You can learn about that by going to Community and Support, and then scrolling down to IRC. Here you'll find a lot of information of all the different channels and how to connect to them. The easiest way to get onto IRC is to go to webchat.freenode.net. Here I'll type in my nickname and the channels that I want, and on that previous page there was a list of channels. I happen to know that Drupal and Drupal support are the two that I want. Then type in this CAPTCHA code and click Connect. Before I do, notice that in the channels I put a little hash mark before the name and there's no space after the comma. Here we're connecting, and there's our two boards, Drupal support and Drupal. Notice all of the people who are here waiting to either ask questions or help you with yours, or just discuss Drupal. Again, be sure you read through the information on Drupal.org about the community that exists in IRC and the proper way to ask questions. There are additional options up here in this little drop-down menu. The very last thing I want to mention is that you might want to hire somebody who's a Drupal expert. There are a few ways of doing that. Go up to Marketplace on Drupal.org, and you'll see a list of people who either will help you with hosting or services or training. If you can't find somebody that way, you can post a specific job by going to groups.drupal.org/jobs. But if yours is a common question, chances are you'll get your answer simply through one of the forums or one of the other boards. If none of that works, of course, you can hire someone. The good news is that the Drupal community is big enough to support all of these options, and certainly one of them will get you the answer you need.